the interwebs, on the social media over the weekend, that were panning the signing of Ryan Stanek. Why would you not like the Cardinals signing a pitcher? I don't get that.
That's my take on that.
No, you make a good point.
Let me say one thing about Ryan. Hang on. Ryan has greatly improved from when he started.
The St. Louis Cardinals offseason has already been one of the most intriguing in recent memory, and it's only getting more fascinating by the day. While some teams are still waiting to see what their big free agent signings will look like, the Cardinals have been quietly maneuvering, analyzing every move around the league, and considering how each ripple could affect their own roster. For fans tuning in, this is the kind of moment to sit back and watch how the dominoes fall, because every signing, trade, and prospect development now has significant implications for the organization. My name is Andrew Toiser, and today we're diving deep into the latest waves of movement in the National League and how the St. Louis Cardinals are positioning themselves for both immediate and long-term impact. Let's start by looking at one of the biggest offseason stories, a signing that has sent shockwaves across the league. Bo Bichette joining the New York Mets on a 3-year, $126 million contract. This wasn't just any signing. The impact of this deal stretches beyond the Mets and reaches directly into the Cardinals' roster strategy. The backdrop here is just as important as the signing itself. It begins with the Dodgers, who secured Kyle Tucker, a deal that left the New York Mets scrambling and frustrated. Stephen Cohen, the Mets owner, expressed his displeasure publicly, tweeting about waiting for the proverbial smoke to clear. He expected Tucker to become a Met, but when that plan fell through, the organization pivoted in an aggressive way. That pivot led them to Bo Bichette, a high-profile, dynamic middle infielder who would immediately fill the gap left by their failed pursuit of Tucker. For the Cardinals, the Bichette signing has very real implications. Teams that had previously been considered potential suitors for Brendan Donovan, including the Mets, are now focused elsewhere. The Mets' commitment to Bichette, especially given that he will likely be positioned at third base, effectively takes them out of the Donovan sweepstakes for now. This doesn't just impact Donovan's market, it shifts the calculus for the entire league. The Boston Red Sox, who are also in on Bichette, have had to pivot as well. They made a big move earlier this offseason, signing Ranger Suarez to a significant contract. With Bichette off the board and resources already committed elsewhere, the Cardinals suddenly find themselves in a unique position. Suddenly, Brendan Donovan emerges as one of the most accessible middle infield options in the league, with very few suitors remaining to compete for his services. At this point, teams like the Red Sox, Seattle Mariners, Kansas City Royals, and San Francisco Giants are now the primary potential landing spots for Donovan. Among them, the Mariners have generated the most chatter, with analysts suggesting a natural fit exists both from a talent and financial perspective. But there's also a compelling case for Boston. The Red Sox boast significant pitching depth in their farm system and major league roster, and this depth could be leveraged to entice the Cardinals with either established pitchers or young, high-upside prospects. Brendan Donovan's trade value is now elevated precisely because the landscape has shifted. Fewer middle infield options, a crowded market elsewhere, and an organization like St. Louis carefully weighing their next steps. It's a delicate balancing act. The Cardinals are navigating not only the market for Donovan, but also the broader strategy for roster construction. Chaim Bloom, as the team's architect, has to balance immediate competitiveness with longer-term sustainability. Winter warm-up held over the weekend at Ballpark Village and Busch Stadium gave fans and media a glimpse into that balancing act. While I personally wasn't able to attend, reports and interviews provided some fascinating insights into the Cardinals' mindset. At the event, Bloom was asked directly about Donovan's future. His response was carefully measured, hinting that Donovan is more likely to stay than move, absent a compelling trade opportunity. He said, and I quote, "My general thought, absent something that I know is imminent, is that most of the time if a player is here, it's likelier that they are going to be here than not. It's a statement that contrasts with much of the national media chatter where figures like Buster Olney and Ken Rosenthal have suggested Donovan is one of the next dominoes likely to be moved." Bloom's tone, measured as it was, suggests a willingness to retain key young talent if circumstances allow. This in turn raises critical questions for the Cardinals' strategy. Are they truly leaning toward keeping Donovan as a cornerstone of their middle infield, or is this simply a matter of leverage in trade discussions? The answer likely falls somewhere in between. While Donovan's name is frequently mentioned in trade speculation, the Bichette signing reshapes the competitive landscape. With other teams' needs shifting, Donovan becomes both more valuable and potentially easier to retain. Another compelling aspect of winter warm-up was the fan engagement and the questions that arose from it. One fan asked pointedly about the Cardinals' reputation as MLB's perennial farm system, expressing frustration at the perception that the team develops top-tier talent only to see it flourish elsewhere. The question referenced players like Sandy Alcantara, Randy Arozarena, and Zach Gallen, who developed within the Cardinals system before achieving significant postseason success with other organizations. Bloom addressed the concern candidly, acknowledging the past while emphasizing a shift in philosophy. He pointed out that prior trades, such as those involving Contreras, Gray, and Arenado, were necessary given the state of the roster and farm system at the time. The Cardinals were not shipping talent indiscriminately. Rather, they were making calculated moves to balance short-term competitiveness with long-term organizational health. This leads us directly into the story of one of the Cardinals' young pitchers who is quietly making waves this offseason, Gordon Grappo. Grappo, who initially emerged as a starting prospect, has shown remarkable adaptability, evolving into a dynamic bullpen arm. What makes his development particularly interesting is the evolution of his pitch arsenal. Traditionally, he relied heavily on a fastball-slider combination, which allowed him to dominate right-handed hitters, but left questions about his ability to neutralize left-handed batters. This offseason, Grappo has reportedly developed a new pitch, a kick change, blending elements of a standard changeup with a circle change, released in a manner that maximizes deception while retaining velocity. The implications of this new pitch cannot be understated. It allows Grappo to challenge left-handed hitters more effectively while maintaining his signature fastball-slider combo against righties. In essence, it expands his versatility, potentially opening the door for both high-leverage bullpen work and a future return to the rotation. The Cardinals coaching staff has recognized this development as a critical step in maximizing Grappo's long-term potential. The ability to maintain arm speed while generating late movement on a breaking pitch is precisely what separates average relievers from dominant ones, and Grappo's progress suggests he could become a valuable asset in multiple scenarios. Returning to the Donovan narrative, it's clear that the Cardinals are now operating in a nuanced environment. The Bichette signing, combined with other roster moves and trade discussions, has created both opportunities and constraints. Teams like Boston and Seattle remain viable suitors, but St. Louis holds considerable leverage. Donovan's value as a trade asset is high, but the possibility of retention provides flexibility, allowing the organization to assess roster needs as the offseason unfolds. The interplay between external market pressures and internal developmental priorities is fascinating, highlighting the complexity of modern MLB front office strategy. Consider also the broader implications for the National League. Bichette's signing with the Mets not only impacts Donovan, but also has a cascading effect across multiple teams' planning and positional strategies. The Dodgers' acquisition of Kyle Tucker shifted expectations and forced other organizations to act, demonstrating how single transactions can reverberate throughout the league. For the Cardinals, this means careful monitoring of middle infield valuations, understanding which prospects or MLB-ready players could be leveraged in trades, and determining how to maintain a competitive roster while retaining flexibility. The Cardinals' approach this offseason appears to be one of calculated patience. By monitoring market shifts, assessing internal talent like Grappo, and selectively engaging in trades or acquisitions, they are positioning themselves to avoid overpaying while simultaneously preparing for multiple scenarios. This is a team consciously navigating the delicate balance between contention and long-term sustainability, recognizing that every signing, trade, or retention decision carries ripple effects. Another factor worth noting is the evolving role of player development within the Cardinals organization. Historically, the team has been praised for its scouting and development programs, consistently producing talent that excels both within the organization and elsewhere. The off-season developments, including winter warm-up insights and the strategic retention or trade of players like Donovan, underscore the importance of internal growth. The Cardinals are leveraging their developmental success not only as a pipeline for talent, but also as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations. Grappo's emergence exemplifies this dual function of development. A young pitcher refining his arsenal, expanding his pitch mix, and demonstrating adaptability provides immediate value to the team while simultaneously increasing trade leverage should a need arise. Similarly, the Cardinals' handling of Donovan reflects a strategic approach to asset management, balancing immediate roster needs against potential long-term gains. This combination of development, assessment, and strategic patience positions St. Louis uniquely in the current National League landscape. Looking ahead, there are several questions fans will be watching closely. Will the Cardinals ultimately retain Donovan, or will the market forces created by moves like Bichette's signing push him toward a new team? How quickly will Grappo's new pitch and bullpen role translate into consistent, high-level performance at the major league level? Can Bloom and the front office continue to identify opportunities for low-risk, high-reward acquisitions that complement internal talent? These questions are central not only to this offseason, but also to the broader trajectory of the Cardinals over the next several seasons. It's also important to consider the psychological and cultural elements at play. Players like Donovan and Grappo are operating in an environment where expectations are high, both from the organization and the fan base. Winter warm-up provides a unique lens into these dynamics, offering insights into how the team communicates its philosophy, manages public perception, and engages directly with fans. Bloom's careful statements about Donovan, combined with his transparent approach to roster management, reinforce a culture of both accountability and opportunity. Ultimately, the Cardinals' offseason strategy is shaping up to be a multifaceted operation. They are assessing the market for middle infielders, navigating high-profile signings like Bichette, leveraging internal talent such as Grappo, and balancing the long-term needs of the organization with short-term competitiveness. The interplay of trades, signings, and player development underscores the complexity of modern MLB management. Fans watching these developments are witnessing a nuanced, carefully orchestrated strategy that combines foresight, adaptability, and an understanding of both player value and market dynamics. For the Cardinals, the key takeaway from this period is the importance of patience and strategic foresight. The team is in a position to either retain key young players like Donovan, thereby solidifying the core, or to explore trades that could provide long-term benefits through prospects or roster flexibility. Meanwhile, players like Grappo demonstrate the value of ongoing development, expanding their roles and capabilities in ways that directly impact both the current roster and future planning. As the offseason progresses, every signing, trade rumor, and internal development will be magnified through the lens of competitive balance, financial prudence, and talent management. The Cardinals' ability to navigate these challenges will define the trajectory of the team for years to come. Fans can take heart in the fact that, while the headlines may focus on other teams' big moves, St. Louis is quietly positioning itself for both present success and sustainable growth. In conclusion, the Cardinals' offseason is a case study in strategic adaptation. The signing of Bo Bichette by the Mets, the emerging story of Brendan Donovan, and the development of Gordon Grappo all intertwine to illustrate the complex, multifaceted nature of modern baseball management. For St. Louis, the decisions made now will shape the competitive landscape for years to come. Observing how the team balances retention, acquisition, and development provides valuable insight into both the philosophy of Chaim Bloom and the operational sophistication of the organization. Fans should be paying close attention because this offseason could set the stage for a dynamic and competitive Cardinals roster, one that blends homegrown talent with strategic market engagement. Every move matters, every decision resonates, and every young player developing in the system could be the next key contributor. The offseason story is far from over, and for those invested in Cardinals baseball, the next chapters promise intrigue, strategy, and perhaps a few surprises that could define the future of the franchise.